Welcome to the Salt and Mirrors and Cats podcast, interviews and audio dramas from our literary zine with stories, poems, and art about superstitions. Dear superstitionists, welcome to episode 4 of the Salt and Mirrors and Cats podcast, sharing tales and exclusive interviews with some of our team members, along with 4 mystery guest writers. In today's episode, we will hear from our second guest writer, Rachel Deering, who has joined us for an interview and a reading of her poems, Bittersweet, which is published in our zine, and Berrow Sands.
Rachel, what does the word superstition mean to you?
I guess that's a tricky one in a way, because I guess superstition just in and of itself, I think, is a belief about something. And I guess to me that they're usually attempts at prediction or warnings in general. But I guess it's tricky because I think there's a lot of crossover with folklore and folk tales and things like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are there any superstitions you believe in?
Well, I mean, I suppose in as much as some superstitions are warnings, for certain plants that you shouldn't touch or where you shouldn't go walking at night on your own and things like that, I guess I believe in those. I guess I don't really believe in the predictive ones, like magpies and things like that. I don't really believe in them, but because they're existing superstitions, I would always rather see 2 magpies than 1, for example. But I mean, I guess if you ask me seriously, I don't really believe in them. And I guess there's some that are just sensible, like the very common ones, like it's bad luck to walk under a ladder. I don't genuinely think it's bad luck to walk under a ladder. But of course, you are slightly safer if you don't walk under it than if you do. So, I mean, I guess some are really based in truth and in warnings, and some are quite sensible.
Okay, I do walk underneath ladders, so it's kind of interesting to hear the question of safety raised here.
Well, I mean, arguably, you are marginally less safe if you walk under the ladder than if you walk around it.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have any objects or lucky charms that are believed to bring good luck, such as witch bones or rabbit's foot? And if you don't, is there a lucky charm you would like to have near you to ensure good luck comes your way?
So, I have a hagstone that I'm very attached to. And I think that's partially because, it's something that you find yourself, on a beach, and it's a lovely little stone with a whole hole through it so that you can wear it on a necklace. So I have my hagstone. I have a little round blue crystal, which I can't even remember exactly what it's supposed to mean now, other than it's quite a good thing. That's always in my bag. And then I have funny little things that I find. So, I don't know, the odd acorn or conker that I found. It's surprising what you can find in the bottom of my handbag. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I love the idea of a hagstone and of acorns as well. Those simple objects that will bring us good luck.
Yeah.
So, are there any superstitions from your local area which you find particularly interesting?
Well, I suppose I live in Bath at the moment, and I wasn't born here, so there are lots of little bits of kind of folklorish stories, like the story of the fairy fish and Berrow Sands, that I find amusing, and there are things to do with giants' footsteps and things like that, and of course Wookey Hole. I suppose closer to my heart are kind of superstitions and stories from where I was born, which is near Dartmoor, which is a hot hotbed of folklore and superstition. So, I mean, there are Coffin Woods and the Crazy Well Pool and Cutty Dyer and Kitty J's grave. There's the Coffin Stone on Dartmoor. So yeah, Dartmoor is a hotbed of superstition and folktale and folklore. So I have a particular soft spot for that.
It's a place definitely worth a visit. And do you have a favorite superstition not covered in your poems?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to answer that one. You know, I guess, so when I'm reading, I've hundreds of books on folklore, superstition, folk tales, fairy tales. And I suppose either when I'm reading something, I'm inspired to write something that's connected somehow to superstition or myth or fairy tale. Or I'm inspired by one thing, you know, like a particular wildflower, and then I might research it, you know, and so I might look at all of the different names that a flower has been called, or anything that's attached to it, you know, any ideas or stories that are attached to that particular plant or flower, and it might develop from there. So I wouldn't say I had a favourite one exactly.
Okay. And can you tell us a bit more about the inspiration behind your poem?
So the poem is Bittersweet, and I think I like bittersweet because it has a sort of very dark side to it as a plant. And again, you know, like I said with plants, once you do a little research, you realise that the plant has lots of different names: felonwort, bittersweet. Obviously, it's a nightshade. You know, and some plants, you know, it's interesting to find that they've got 50 different names for different reasons. You know, it becomes like a little rabbit's hole that you get lost down. And I guess, you know, for me, the nightshade has its dark side, which is obviously connected to what I wanted to write about at the time. And then elements of that. So in that poem in particular, we smear our bodies with tree sap, bittersweet, and heath orchid. It's an actual thing that, you know, at one time or another you could put on your body, and it was supposed to ward off evil.
Okay, and can you tell us more about the other projects you are working on?
So I'm I have finished my second collection, which will be published very soon, hopefully early in the new year. That's the plan. And I'm working on another very secret project, which I don't want to talk too much about, but I'm very excited about, which is, you know, kind of on the general themes of things that I love, you know, in terms of the natural world. And what else am I working on? Nothing else, I think. I think that's it. New collection coming out, and a project with a friend.
This poem is called Bittersweet. In the night belly of a thrush, sweet bitter, a mouthful of dew and light and candy red berries tweaked by purple flowers of lovesick, a warning of sulphur yellow. We smear our bodies with tree sap, bittersweet and heath orchid. We ward off the darkness, or wish we did, tell ourselves we have, and yet also desire it. I say, I want to be alone, but I do not want to feel alone. a solitude hell just until the quiet speaks to me. The felonwort writes it better than I could. Its words snake towards a creaseless sky, seeking sun whilst shunning it. A little of this vine will leave you speechless. Too much would be poison. Its heart-shade whispers, what would life be without death? But a poem is not a headstone. Let love be my witness. May my memory anchor me, where bittersweet violet blooms and skulks, tendrils of beguilement until it strangles. This is a poem called Berrow Sands. It's based on a folk tale about Berrow Sands in Somerset of a huge fairy fish or witch fish which is said to eat sailors and leave the remains for the conger eels. Great fairy fish, its mouth vast and gaping, is said to have swum off Berrow Sands and belched her fill of men like thunder, swallowed God like Jonah, but refused to spit him out. The sea here is rain-cloud leaden, a murk of mudflats and dismay. I imagine those eager sailors launched on the underbelly of night, unwitting food for a scaled giant, scraps for conger eels, serpentine ministers of darkness who barked like dogs in the slippery gloom. The moon loud then, as now, the stars its bright prisoners, awake for lost fishermen, and I think the moon might ask, do you think of God? But oh, would come the snarled reply, I wonder rather, does God think of me?
Thank you for listening to the Salt and Mirrors and Cats podcast. The poems you heard were Bittersweet and Berrow Sands by Rachel Deering, read by the author herself. Today's special thank you goes to everyone who has been reading and listening to the work of our authors. Salt and Mirrors and Cats can be purchased in our Ko-Fi shop. Stay tuned, there are 2 more mystery guest writers coming. Salt and Mirrors and Cats. We'll share the good luck.